Welcome to Channel 18 News. I'm Jim Rogers. Joshua Timmons, age 28, was sentenced to 12 years in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Tuesday afternoon in 8th Judicial District Court. Timmons had been on probation for arson, but that was revoked when he was charged with injury to elderly child disabled with intent bodily injury. The injury to elderly charge was dismissed as a part of the plea bargain agreement. However, with the sentence for the felony to arson, Timmons will be facing 25 years to life should he commit another felony after he serves his time in prison. Interdiction Deputy Harry Washington stopped a van for a traffic violation at the 122-mile marker on westbound I-30 Tuesday. Inside the van, in plain view, were a number of roosters. Deputy Washington was told by the driver, Jose Manuel Salas, age 25 of El Paso, that he had gaffs or slashers in the center console of the vehicle. Washington contacted the Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals to take possession of the approximate 60 to 70 roosters found in the van. The roosters were moved to a cool place until the SPCA arrived. Salas told Washington, "I know I messed up." Salas is in Hopkins County Jail Wednesday morning, charged with cockfighting. Space owns, trains, equips. Additional charges were added Tuesday for Jeffrey Edward Maurer, age 25, arrested Monday for tamper, fabricate physical evidence with intent to impair, and possession of a controlled substance less than 28 grams. Maurer had fled Hopkins County deputies who were attempting to serve a warrant for his arrest for burglaries that had occurred in the south part of Hopkins County, where Maurer had been staying with a female on State Highway 154. Along with Maurer, the passenger in the auto, Christian Edward Bryant, age 25 of Roy City, was charged with possession of a controlled substance, penalty group 1, less than 1 gram. Bryant had exited the vehicle during the chase and gave himself up to deputies. Methamphetamine had been found in a backpack in the auto, which led to the arrest of Bryant and an additional charge of possession for Maurer. Maurer is now charged with unlawful possession of a firearm by a felon, a .22 caliber pistol with 4 rounds of ammunition that was found in the air breather of the 1992 auto he was driving, but that broke down, which enabled the deputies to be able to catch him. And he's been charged with fraud, use, possession of identifying information, less than 5 items. Both Maurer and Bryant are in Hopkins County Jail.
During the month of June of 2017, Alliance Bank is celebrating its 90th birthday. To tell us more about it, here's President and CEO of Alliance Bank, Tom Sellers.
Our 90th birthday during the month of June, so we're excited to celebrate that. And 90 years is a long time.
It is a long time, and you have the history all documented with a story and some pictures on your website, which is
AllianceBank.com.
Okay, and you can find many things there, including a banner that comes across that See Our History. Click on that and it takes you to this page.
That's correct. And we have our history up and pictures of our former presidents and CEOs and a picture of the building that we were in for a long time. And so just a little interesting history that's there.
Well, the current building that we know of Alliance Bank is on the northeast corner of the square, I believe, the Celebration Plaza.
Yeah.
And it has been there since the 80s.
That building has, yes, that building has. We've been in that location since the early 30s, but that building has been there since the 80s.
Okay. A lot of people will remember, different looks over the different eras.
Sure.
Of Alliance Bank, and celebrating 90 years and going full force on towards 100.
Yes, just 10 short years. It will be here before we know it.
And who knows what changes in technology will take place in those 10 years?
Oh yeah, that's absolutely true, because those changes are coming so rapidly now. The changes in technology and banking really have increased and are a lot faster now because of technology primarily. A lot of changes in the last 5 years, and the next 10 years will be a lot different, I'm sure.
I think sometimes people, go to be trained for a certain practice, and almost before they're done changes are made.
That's true. Yeah, we're advancing really fast these days.
And it's wonderful for banking. I do want to ask you about your career in banking, and when did you come to Sulphur Springs and our Alliance Bank?
Well, I was, of course, born and raised here, but went to school out at Texas Tech, and I came back home. I was not going to be in banking. That was not my goal.
What were you going to be?
Well, I came back home and went to work on a ranch north of town, and what was some people remember as the Leonard Ranch. And so I spent a couple of years doing that. When I came back home, my mom asked me what I was going to do, and I said, well, I'm going to work on the ranch. She said, are you going to manage that ranch? I said, no, ma'am, I'm just going to be a cowboy out there. And that's what I did. I rode a horse every day and worked at the ranch and was very happy doing that. And then the ranch sold, and I ended up going to work for the Farmers Home Administration, which was then that's what they called it. It's part of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. They sent me back to West Texas, where I'd gone to school, and I worked out there. And then I moved on to the Farm Credit System and worked for the Federal Land Bank for a while in East Texas, in Henderson and Tyler. And then in 1988, Alec Bridges, who was then the president of the bank, had called me 2 or 3 times to ask me if I might think about coming home. And every time I'd say, no, I don't want to come home. But he convinced me, and I did come home in 1988, and that was a good decision. And been here and raised our family here, and Pam and I have really enjoyed living here and enjoyed raising our family here. And so I will be at the bank 30 years this February.
Wow. Well, we'll have to have an anniversary recognition for you on that account.
Well, there are people at the bank longer than me. So.
Well, and part of it isn't being home a beautiful thing.
Being home's a good thing. Sulphur Springs is a great place. It's a wonderful place to raise our family. Katie and Jacob were raised here, and it was a good place. It is a good place. We've been very pleased that we came back home, and really it's been exciting to see the changes in Sulphur Springs and how it's grown, and along with the bank growing, been a lot of changes here, and all good.
As Alliance Bank celebrates 90 years during the month of June, we're just on the threshold of another celebration downtown, just footsteps from your front door, our nation's birthday.
That's right. We'll celebrate our nation's birthday, and our annual Independence Day concert is July the 1st, and that's always a great event. Great music, fireworks, and then just a great gathering of people downtown. And every year it seems like it's grown, and with the changes to the downtown, the plaza, and all the new restaurants downtown, and the activity that goes on there all the time. Really now, it's really exciting. So we look forward to a great event and an exciting evening.
Well, Alliance Bank has a large hand in making that happen every year, and many other things going on around here. But let's go back again about that history. We love history here at KSST.
I know you do.
We love to realize where things used to be and maybe point out the older locations. So downtown in the 20s, 27 actually, June 13th of 1927, and all this history is on that page on your website. Sulphur Springs State Bank was chartered by 2 of the largest shareholders of First State Bank, and the First State Bank had been closed for insolvency, as it reads here.
Right.
So southwest corner of the square, which is Main at Gilmer, I think a business now called the Secret Garden is in that location.
That's correct.
Was the first original Sulphur Springs State Bank location.
That's correct. If you go into that building, and in the back of that building there's a vault. It's still there, and that's the original location. Of course, as you recall, in the 20s, the country was in the midst of a depression, and a lot of banks were failing across the country. There were thousands of banks that closed, and the particular bank that the shareholders were involved in looked like it was going to close, so they formed this new bank and opened there in that location.
And the first year it was successful.
First year was successful. First year it paid a dividend to the shareholders, and every year since then we've paid a dividend to the shareholder.
Well, there was a fire at that location in 1933, and you had to move to the north side of the square, approximately where you are now, to a building that was already constructed.
That's correct. It's a building that was there. If you look at some of the older pictures of the downtown square that are around town, some in City Hall. We have some in our lobby. There's other pictures around town. You'll see that building, kind of a Greek-style Roman architecture building. It was a beautiful building, and it served its purpose until the early 60s, probably 61, 62, somewhere along there. Then that building was torn down, and a new, quote, modern building was constructed there. And that building remained until the early 80s, when it was remodeled. And the present outside structure has been much the same since the early 80s. We've done several remodels of the inside since then.
Well, a lot of our listeners will remember that two-story with the big columns that was torn down in the 1960s. And so when that happened and you were building the new one, and you were not here yet, but
I was here. I was just young. I was just young.
Well,
I was in school, elementary school.
Oh, okay. I wonder where they did how they ran the bank when they weren't in the building, but probably that would not have been quite as complicated as it might be today to move a location.
No.
But some of the other changes that take place over the years in banking that you remember, like before all the computerized work that we necessarily have now.
Oh yeah,
doing things on paper.
Doing things on paper. The bank was a lot different. I can remember when my dad was a banker and worked for what was then the Sulphur Springs State Bank and then Alliance Bank, and so I remember from his career. We had what they called at the time counter checks, which every store, every merchant had a check of all the different banks in the community, and we didn't have computers or digital type information, and so you just went to the merchant and took whatever bank you were doing business with, their check, and wrote out and pay for your groceries or whatever you might be buying. And that's the way we operated until the early 1980s, when the bank converted to a computer system and changed the account numbers to where the computers took that information and sorted it and went from there. And so that began the change of how banking has evolved into the technology world that we know today, where a lot of people do banking on their phone.
Back then, I think, and I remember going to our local grocery and using a counter check. And so maybe the checker or maybe the manager of the store kind of eyeballing the person who's making the signature was all the identity they really needed.
They were. People knew each other, and then you had people at the bank that literally checked the signatures of those checks, and they became quite proficient at that. They could recognize whether I signed it or someone else might have signed it. So that was our safety net, was the knowledge of those people.
Well, and not to rush too far out of the history that we're talking about, but later this month you're going to be hosting actually sponsoring a Protect Your Identity informative program at the Senior Center.
Yes, we are.
This is so important.
It is very important, especially in the world we live in today because of all the technology, and so we're trying to share information with the public about how you can protect your information, how you can be safe, and that the technology really is safe if you take certain steps and be careful how you manage your information.
Well, again, on your website that shows your history, there's some pictures of past presidents. If people would like to look at those, there are 8, ending with yourself as CEO and president from 1999 till present. That's true.
I actually have been president since 1999 and became CEO in 2004. So.
Okay. And recently you went to Washington?
I did. I went to Washington, D.C. I've been up there several times. Our trade organization, the Independent Bankers of Texas, takes an annual trip up there and to talk to the Congress and others about banking legislation. And this last time was a little unique event in that there were 100 of us that got to go to the White House and hear the president and the vice president and others speak to us.
Very good. And today's customers of Alliance Bank, clients of Alliance Bank, with your 90-year history, they can be assured of a solid bank when they choose you as a place to do their banking.
That's true. Yes, ma'am. We've been in business for that many years, and we're fortunate that we've been very successful over the years, and we have a very strong and solid bank. And Sulphur Springs is fortunate that we have several solid community banks in town. And Sulphur Springs is a good place to be and a good place to operate a business. And we have great schools and great hospital and just a lot of great organizations. And we're very blessed to be here.
We I took note that you are sponsoring the meal today at the First United Methodist Church, the Dinner Bell meal.
Yes, the Dinner Bell. Again, I know there's a very successful and great program here in our community that serves a meal each Wednesday. They're at the First United Methodist Church, and yes, Alliance Bank today is helping to sponsor that meal.
Okay, and very busy in our community. And we appreciate you for all that you personally do and the great history that Alliance Bank does offer us. We are familiar with your bank downtown. Drive past it all the time. There's many services offered there that you may not be familiar with. You ought to get acquainted.
Yes, thank you.
And thank you, Tom Sellers, for coming in.
Thank you, Nola.
We will see you on July 1st.
You will. If not before, we'll certainly see you July 1st. We invite everyone to come. Enjoy that evening. Enjoy the music. Enjoy the fireworks. It'll be a great evening.
Here's Don Julian with sports.
For the second year, the Sulphur Springs Athletic Department is offering the Edge for middle school athletes. It's a 4-week program taking place Monday through Thursday from 9:30 a.m. until 10:30 a.m. each day until July 6th. It began back on June 12th. The Edge for middle school athletes does not have endurance work like gassers and hill climbing and 100-yard dashes that are featured in the Edge for high school athletes. The middle school Edge focus is more on stretching, weightlifting, and agility drills. A great deal is spent on proper technique. Wildcats head football coach and athletic director Greg Owens says the middle school athlete is still learning to use their body. Usually there's a lot of growth going on during the middle school years. Coach Owens says the Edge for middle school athletes has drawn good numbers.
Thanks for watching Channel 18 News. Have a great evening.